Chapter 3. The hunt begins. The blinds were drawn tight in Alex's apartment, shutting out the London night. The only light came from the glow of four monitors arranged in a gentle curve on his desk, their cold blue-white luminescence reflecting in his glasses. To any observer, it was a high-end gaming setup. To Alex, it was his command center, his digital panopticon. The man who had left the office hours earlier, Alec Thorne, the quiet, respectable development team lead, was gone. In his place sat a phantom, a ghost resurrected from a past he had tried to bury. This was a familiar state of being, a mindset he hadn't fully inhabited in years. It was a place of pure, cold logic, where emotion was a liability and morality was a variable in a complex equation. His desire was no longer for simple justice. That was a concept for courts and HR departments. His goal was total information dominance. To win this war, he needed to own the digital souls of Andy Vance and Mark Shirkaja. He needed to know them better than they knew themselves. He began with the pawn, Mark Sharpsaw. Alex's fingers didn't just type. They conducted a fury of keystrokes, brought up a mosaic of information on one screen. Mark's public-facing life. A sparse LinkedIn profile, a heavily carpeted Instagram filled with pictures of London landmarks with his wife, a few posts on a forum for UK immigrants. It was the saint-mode version of a man. Alex needed the raw source code. He knew from Elena that Mark's primary vulnerability was his visa. Desperation, Alex knew, bred carelessness. He navigated to the Nexus Innovations corporate portal, his credentials granting him access far beyond that of a simple team lead. He had built fail-safes and backdoors into the company's network during his first few months on the job, not out of malice, but out of a deep-seated belief that one should always have their own keys to any building they inhabit. He found Mark's employee file. Date of birth, home address, next of kin, start date. Trivial data on its own, but they were the building blocks of a password. He wrote a small, elegant script, a brute force tool refined with biographical data. It would churn through permutations of names, dates, and common words, targeting Mark's personal email accounts. It was clumsy, but it was a start. While the script ran, a more elegant trap was being laid. Alex composed an email, spoofing the sender address to appear as if it came from a reputable UK immigration law firm. The subject line was grafted with chilling precision. You are Gian. Your Tier 2 visa application additional information required. The body of the email was a masterpiece of bureaucratic terror, citing non-existent subsections of immigration law and warning of potential delays or rejection if the recipient didn't log into a secured portal to verify their details immediately. The link, of course, led to a Phaeacian site Alex had cloned and hosted on a transient server in Estonia. It was a digital bear trap, baited with Mark's deepest fear. He sent it, then leaned back, watching his scripts work. He was a fisherman who had cast multiple lines into the water. Now he waited for a bite. He turned his attention to the king, Andy Vance. Andy would be harder. He was arrogant, but not stupidly careless. His digital footprint was a created landscape of professional ambition, smug posts about SEO trends, photos from corporate networking events, a perfectly manicured professional image. Attempting to brute force his accounts would be noisy and likely trip alarms. A direct assault was out of the question. For Andy, Alex needed a siege, not a battering ram. He started mapping the man's life. Using a series of shell corporations and untraceable crypto payments, he purchased data from the shadowy brokers who sold the fragments of people's lives. Credit card transaction headers, mobile location data, marketing profiles. A picture began to form. Andy spent too much money on designer clothes and expensive restaurants. He had a car loan that was eye-wateringly high for a man on his salary. He lived in a constant state of projecting wealth he didn't truly possess. He was over-leveraged. He was fragile. Alex then turned his attention to the Nexus network traffic, filtering for Andy's activity. He watched the data packets flow, a river of information. Most of it was corporate nonsense, emails about synergy, pointless meetings, browsing articles on how to be a more effective alpha male manager. But within the river were currents and eddies, patterns, a connection every evening at 7:15 p.m. to a specific gaming server, regular data transfers to a personal cloud storage account. These were the routines of his life, the unguarded moments. Alex began logging everything, building a behavioral baseline. He wasn't looking for a single secret, he was looking for a deviation from the norm, an anomaly that would betray a hidden weakness. A soft chime echoed in the silent room. One of his lines had caught something, the Feixing email. New entry appeared in his log file. Warshow. Mun Nexus password. Angelit 2021. Alex felt a flicker of something cold and sharp. Anjali, Mark's wife's name, a password born of love and hope, now a key to its owner's ruin. He entered the credentials into Mark's personal email account, access granted. The inbox was a catalog of a young man's quiet desperation. Worried emails to his wife, links to job postings, inquiries about the cost of living. And then he saw it, a folder labeled Family. Inside were dozens of emails, mostly in Hindi, which Alex ran through a translation program. They were from his parents in Dubai. Not just pressure to succeed, but please. His father had lost his job. There was debt, not just to banks, but to private lenders. They saw Mark, their son in London, with the big tech job as their only salvation. This was it, the true source of the poison. The visa was a chain around Mark's neck, but this debt, this crushing family obligation, was the anchor tied to it. Andy hadn't just manipulated a man afraid of being deported, he had manipulated a son terrified of his family's collapse. Buried deeper in the sent folder was a thread with Andy. Sent from this personal account to Andy's private address, away from the prying eyes of the corporate servers. It was from the day of the HR meeting. Andy, I did what you asked. They put a note on his file. Are we done? Please tell me we are done. Andy's reply was short and cruel. We're done when I say we're done. Just remember our arrangement and try to look less pathetic tomorrow. Alex saved the email chain, entering the file. This was ammunition, this was proof, but it wasn't the weapon. Releasing this would get Andy disciplined, maybe even fired. It wasn't enough. Alex wanted to dismantle him, not just defeat him. He wanted to use Andy's own ambition as the blade. He leaned back, the four screens painting a complex, interconnected web of data. On the left, Mark Sharma's life lay exposed, his finances, his fears, his coerced betrayal. On the right, a profile of Andy Vance was growing with every packet of data Alex intercepted. His vanity, his financial fragility, his digital routines. The hunt was no longer a plan. It was a living, breathing operation. Alex was the ghost in their machines, the silent observer of their private lives. The web was woven, the flies were caught. All he had to do now was watch them struggle and wait for one of them to pull on the single, perfect thread that would bring the entire structure crashing down. And in the cold, quiet dark of his apartment, a predator watching his prey. Alex Thorne felt a profound and terrifying sense of peace.